It's movie time, and holy guacamole with a side of chips did I find an unexpected movie. Today, it's Rebel Ridge, a 2024 thriller that serves up a heaping plate of justice, corruption, and some damn fine action. This film takes classic Western tropes and twists them into a tale of small town lawlessness that could have been scripted by someone that watched too many spaghetti westerns. Imagine Clint Eastwood's The Outlaw got a 21st century makeover, complete with corrupt cops instead of corrupt land barons. This movie starts out with Terry Richmond, who rolls into town with $36,000 of cash in hand, intending to post bail and buy a truck for a fresh start. What he doesn't expect is a run in with the town's finest, Officer Evan Morstan and Steve Land, who decide his money looks a little too good to be left alone. Instead of outlaws stealing gold, we got civil forfeiture happy cops and a hefty dose of town's unsavory dealings. The plot unfolds like a bad fever dream of bureaucratic red tape and police incompetence. Terry's attempts to navigate the cesspool of corruption are met with obstacles so thick you'd think the town had a full time job keeping its filth under wraps. The narrative plots along as Terry finds himself caught in a web of lies and brutality, with every officer that he encounters seamlessly more useless and more villainous than the last. Director and writer Jeremy Schulener elegantly immerses you in a modern day drama that draws heavily from classic themes of corruption and personal retribution. But it's the small details in this film that elevate it from just another thriller to a finely tuned narrative masterpiece. Terry is the modern equivalent of a wandering gunslinger with little backstory. Terry crashes into the film with a cool, calm demeanor, but ends up letting his sense of justice drive the plot. His level headedness in the chaos of the battle is calming and chilling at the same time. There's a quote from a book, The Way of Kings. A man's emotions are what define him, and control is the hallmark of true strength. To lack feeling is to be dead, but to act on every feeling is to be a child. Think of Terry as a contemporary take on the characters like Gary Cooper's Will Kane in High Noon. Terry's got the grit and determination of a Western hero, but is up against much more than an insidious and entrenched foe. Speaking of foes, we have our big bad of the movie, Police Chief Sandy Byrne. The chief is the quintessential corrupt town leader who uses his position to enforce his brand of justice. He's the kind of figure who would fit right in with a classic Western, ruling a town with an iron fist with a complete disregard for fairness. We are also introduced to Summer McBride, initially a well meaning clerk. Summer quickly morphs into a reluctant ally, spearheading the investigation to bring down the House of Cards. She's not exactly a damsel in distress, but more like a hard-working soul who finds herself entangled in the drama of a corrupt town. Her role is akin to the town's moral compass, but when she's pushed down, she just digs harder for the truth. Cast delivers performances are nothing short of electrifying. Each character is meticulously crafted, their motivations laid bare with the finesse that makes them feel as real as the dirt and grime that surrounds them. As it turns out, John Boyega was supposed to play Terry Richmond. But Boyega's exit from the film was probably seen as a disaster in the early stages of the film. Sometimes the universe works in mysterious ways. Boyega's abrupt departure, whether due to creative differences, scheduling conflicts, or just a sheer lack of interest, turned out to be a blessing in disguise. So halfway through the movie's production, out went Boyega, and in came Aaron Pierre, who manages to bring a fresh perspective to the project. Some might see swapping out one actor for another as just a matter of rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. But Pierre's performance demonstrates a robust command over the character's emotional and physical demands, which is no small feat given the turbulent production history. Pierre's Terry Richmond emerges as a character marked by quiet resilience and a steely determination that fits well within the morally complex world of Rebel Ridge. Unlike Boyega's potentially more dramatic take, Pierre offers a nuanced interpretation that emphasizes the character's inner conflict and physical toughness. His performance brings a new layer of subdued intensity to the role, effectively conveying the wariness and determination of a man fighting against a systemic corruption. Visually, Rebel Ridge is a feast for fans with no hold bar action. The cinematography captures the bleak and oppressive atmosphere of Shelby Springs perfectly. The film brings to mind the dusty, sun soaked vistas of classic westerns, but swap them for rain slick streets and darkened alleys. There are easily a dozen instances of small details that you just don't get in other action movies. The scene where they're driving the car at night near the courthouse and they tape the taillights. It's a brilliant detail that underscores the tension of their situation. It's a small but powerful choice that highlights their desperation and the lengths they'll go to avoid detection. The truck that Terry aims to buy isn't just another vehicle, it symbolizes his hope for a new beginning and a fresh start. As for the action sequences, They are sharp and intense, with a realistic edge that pulls you right into the thick of it. Pierre, who portrays a former MCMAP instructor, exhibits combat skills and physicality that aligns with his character's military background. The close quarter combat scenes are staged with a level of detail that emphasizes practicality over cinematic flair. For instance, when Terry takes over the police station, he subdues multiple officers. It is portrayed with the focus of tactical efficiency rather than flashy moves. The film's portrayal of civil forfeiture, a controversial practice where law enforcement can seize property suspected of being connected to criminal activity, adds a layer of authenticity. While the depiction is dramatized for narrative purposes, it captures the essence of how such legal processes can be exploited and manipulated. The film highlights the bureaucratic headache and the moral ambiguity surrounding these practices, offering a critique on the system's flaws. When it comes to firearms, Rebel Ridge makes the effort to present them with a degree of realism and safety, unlike some other films. Characters handle the weapon with a level of competence that suggests some degree of familiarity, particularly Terry Richmond's character, given his military background. The use of firearms in tense situations is depicted with an emphasis on practicality. Some other films I've seen, it's like they have 1,000 rounds in a Glock 17. The art of cinema can often involve a delicate dance between fact and fiction. Rebel Ridge is a film that invites exploration and rewards careful observation. The small details, which might initially seem minor, come together to create a richly textured and immersive experience. Each viewing reveals new facets of the film's world, character dynamics, and thematic depth, making Rebel Ridge a compelling and intriguing cinematic journey. Overall, this movie is a breath of fresh air in a dusty saloon, and I loved every moment of it. Rebel Ridge is a contemporary Western in all but the name, delivering a story of corruption and redemption wrapped in a modern, gritty package that thrives on attention to detail. It takes familiar tropes from the genre: corrupt authorities, a lone hero finding the system, and an overreaching sense of justice, and updates it for today's audience. Honestly, this was really hard to write because there are so many small details I wanted to emphasize, but I feel like it would be like giving you a Where's Waldo book with Waldo already circled. If you like movies that spoon feed you everything, you might not enjoy this movie as much as I did. For those craving complexity and nuance, this is a hidden gem. Until next time, later, nerds.